Hi, it's Katrina. A lot of the things from the ancient world have been lost to time, but there are still some buildings that have been around for thousands of years that are still being used to this day. From ancient civilizations to medieval empires, humans have built structures that have endured for generations. So let's go take a look at some of the oldest buildings on the planet you can still visit. Maybe you already have. The Pantheon. In the heart of ancient Rome, a monument was erected that would outlast empires and inspire generations. Its name, the Pantheon. Considered the eighth wonder of the ancient world, the Pantheon is an architectural wonder. And it's kind of a miracle it's still around. Be careful not to confuse the Pantheon with the Parthenon, which is in Greece. That happens to me all the time. It was originally constructed in 27 BC by Marcus Agrippa, but it burned down in 80 AD. It was then rebuilt by Emperor Domitian, but it was struck down by lightning and burned down a second time. It was then reconstructed once more under the reign of Emperor Hadrian. I guess third time's the charm. Since then, the building has managed to stay flame-free. The eighth wonder of the world isn't really a thing, it just means that these places were extremely impressive or noteworthy, like the Pantheon or Mount Nemrut or Angkor Wat. Basically, it should have been a wonder of the ancient world. One of the most famous legends about the Pantheon involves the first architect, Marcus Agrippa. According to the story, Agrippa was so proud of his creation that he boasted, "I have created a work that will last longer than any other." As punishment for his hubris, the gods supposedly caused him to go blind. And technically, as I told you, the first attempt of the Pantheon burned down, so it didn't really last that long. The Pantheon has a rectangular portico at its entrance supported by columns on all sides, but its main structure is circular. The interior is dominated by a massive dome with a central oculus. Nobody knows who designed the building this way, only that it was completed between 118 and 128 AD. It's said that hundreds of years after its construction, when famed artist Michelangelo saw the Pantheon, he claimed that it was designed by angels, not men. Another legend suggests that the Pantheon's oculus, or the circular opening in the center of the dome, was meant to represent the eye of the god Jupiter. It was believed that sunlight passing through the oculus symbolized the god's watchful gaze over the world. Most scholars agree the Pantheon was a temple that was dedicated to all the gods. Some, however, believe that it was dedicated to the planet gods, like Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, and Saturn, the god of time and agriculture, and Jupiter because, the watchful eye thing. There was once a sculpture of a specific Roman god on the inside of the building that would have cleared things up, but that sculpture has since been removed, leaving us with yet another mystery. In 609 AD, the Pantheon was handed over to the Catholic Church. They, of course, removed any signs of paganism, so they were responsible for removing the sculpture that once decorated the interior of the building. The church then turned the Pantheon into a place of Catholic worship. Who knows? Maybe somewhere hidden within the Vatican's secret archives is this mysterious sculpture. After all, records only state that it was removed, not that it was destroyed. Over the years, the Pantheon also served as a tomb, acting as a final resting place for several notable figures. For example, one of Italy's most famous artists, Raphael, is buried here. The site welcomes visitors today, so let me know if it's on your bucket list, or have you been there already? Let me know in the comments below. The Tower of Hercules. There is a tower in Spain that was built by Hercules himself. Well, that's what the legends say anyway. It's called the Tower of Hercules, and it has guarded the entrance of La Coruña harbor since the late 1st century AD. It supposedly marks the burial place of an evil giant called Geryon. The story goes that Geryon once ruled over the lands between the Tagus and the Douro, and let me tell you, he was not a good leader. He let the power go to his head and became somewhat of a tyrant. The people living in the area feared him, and they prayed to the gods for a hero. That's where Hercules comes in. Hercules heard the cries of the people and came in search of the giant Geryon. Eventually, the two crossed paths. The fighting between them lasted 3 days and 3 nights. Hercules was strong, but Geryon was, well, a giant. In the end, Hercules emerged as the victor, and afterwards he cut off Gerion's head and buried it near the sea. Brutal. To commemorate his win and the liberation of the people, Hercules constructed a lighthouse tower on top of the burial site. Nearby, he founded a city, which he called Crunia. Why? Because that was the name of the first woman who settled down there, the woman Hercules had fallen in love with. But wait, Disney said he fell in love with Megara. Where's Meg? Fun fact, but this might ruin your childhood. Greek mythology claims that Hercules actually had many lovers over the course of his lifetime, both female and male. Anywho, back to the legend. After some time, Hercules left the area, appointing his nephew, Espan, lord of the lands of Spain. Towns and cities were populated, and Espan continued building the tower that Hercules started. Now, Espan was a wise man. He added a magical lamp to the lighthouse with a fire that never extinguished. Where this lamp came from, however, isn't clear. Espan is also said to have placed an enchanted mirror within the tower that would show enemy ships coming from a great distance. But where in the world was he getting these magical items? I guess it's not important to the story. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the lighthouse is still standing in northwestern Spain. The Tower of Hercules is currently the only Roman lighthouse that is fully preserved and still being used for maritime signaling. In the 18th century, the tower was restored by architect Eustachio Giannini. According to the tower's description, he enhanced the core of the building by adding 2 octagonal forms, whatever that means. Also on the site of the tower is a sculpture park featuring rock carvings that date back to the Iron Age, as well as a Muslim cemetery. Since 2009, the tower has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is open to visitors. If you ever visit Spain, you should definitely add it to your itinerary. If not for the amazing views, then at least for the colorful legends. And now for a quick break because it's shoutout time! I want to give a big thank you to Grindr and Denfool. Thanks so much for watching and supporting Origins Explained. Hope you have a great night. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe and join the family. Ye Old Trip to Jerusalem. Imagine walking into a pub where the legendary Robin Hood could have plotted his next adventure, or where King Richard the Lionheart might have stopped by for a pint before heading off on a crusade. Well, both might be true at the Ye Old Trip to Jerusalem, one of England's most famous pubs. Nestled into the sandstone cliffs beneath Nottingham Castle, this place has a history as rich as the ale they serve. Listen to this and let me know in the comments if you'd stop in for a drink. The pub claims to date back to 1189, the same year Richard the Lionheart began his journey to Jerusalem. Although some historians debate this timeline, with parts of the building likely dating to the 17th century, the mystery only adds to the charm. The name Ye Old Trip to Jerusalem doesn't refer to an actual journey, but rather a stop along the way, making this pub a traditional resting point for travelers and crusaders alike. Now, if you're into ghost stories or cursed objects, you're in for a treat. The pub houses the Cursed Galleon, a small wooden ship model locked away in a glass case. Legend has it that several people met untimely deaths after attempting to clean it, so no one dares touch it today. Then there is the pregnancy chair, an old seat said to boost a woman's chances of getting pregnant just by sitting in it. Who knew that grabbing a drink could come with a side of superstition? But the real magic happens when you step into the rear rooms of the pub, which are actually small caves carved directly out of the sandstone rock. These cozy, dimly lit spaces give off a truly ancient vibe, making you feel like you've stepped back in time. Stories claim that these caves may have also been a hideout for local legend and outlaw Robin Hood. And with the original brewery cave still existing beneath the pub, it's easy to see why Ye Old Trip to Jerusalem feels like more than just a place to grab a pint. It's a living piece of history. Akama Pueblo. Akama Pueblo is a Native American village high in the sky, sitting on top of a 357-foot sandstone mesa. It is the oldest continuously inhabited settlement in the United States, dating back to around 1,000 years ago. Legend has it that the name Akama comes from the Puebloan Kursan dialect, meaning the people of the White Rock. And that's a fitting description for this village that seems to float above the earth. The Akama people chose this towering mesa as their home for its natural defenses. After all, not many enemies could easily climb up the steep cliffs that surround it. Before modern staircases, the only way up was through a hand-carved path in the rock. The Akama people were skilled farmers, cultivating the land below their mesa and trading with neighboring tribes and even distant civilizations like the Aztecs and the Mayans. Life was tough but vibrant, and the Pueblo flourished long before Europeans ever set foot in the area. The first European to visit was the Spanish explorer Francisco Vázquez de Coronado in 1540. It's said that he was so impressed by the Pueblo's fortress-like appearance that he doubted he could ever conquer it. And this amazement was justified because Akama fiercely resisted Spanish rule. In December 1598, a party of Spanish soldiers seeking food arrived at Akama. Initially, they were welcomed and everyone was friendly. But then the soldiers turned aggressive and began to demand grain from the Akama storehouses, which was needed for the tribe to survive the winter. So the provoked Akama fought back, killing 13 of the Spanish soldiers, including their leader, Juan de Zaldívar. In 1599, after a deadly clash, the Spanish managed to storm the pueblo, leading to a tragic massacre and the eventual subjugation of the Akama people. When everything was said and done, over 800 villagers were dead, and their city was in ruins. But that wasn't enough for the Spanish. Any fighting-age males that were left alive after the battle had one of their feet cut off. Any children under the age of 12 that survived were ripped from their mothers and given to the Spanish missionaries to raise. Many of the Akama women were sold into slavery. Out of the 2,000 people who once occupied Akama, only about 250 were spared. Despite this, though, the resilient Akama rebuilt their community. Some of the villagers managed to escape their captors over the years and made their way back home. But decades later, in 1629, under Spanish rule, they were forced to construct the San Esteban del Rey mission. This is a church that still stands today. The beams were carried from miles away, and tons of stone were hauled up the mesa for its construction. The Akama may have been conquered, but they never lost their spirit. While only a few Akama people still live atop the mesa, the traditions of their ancestors continue today. You can now tour the ancient site and marvel at the incredible pottery and architecture of the Akama. You can also learn about a civilization that has weathered centuries of change, all while standing in a place that truly feels like a city in the sky. Castel Santangelo. Roman Emperor Hadrian was burned to ashes. Well, he was burned after he died, but still. He passed away on July 10th in 138 AD after successfully ruling for nearly 20 years. He might sound familiar because of the famous Hadrian's Wall in the UK. His cremated ashes were stored within a mausoleum also named after him, the Mausoleum of Hadrian. And his final resting place has a history that's as illustrious as the emperor's own life. Emperor Hadrian was a transformative leader, one of the best rulers the empire ever had. Unlike other men in his position, Hadrian prioritized the stability of Rome over expansion. He embraced Greek philosophy and culture and oversaw advancements in infrastructure, the arts, and Roman law. But as with pretty much every emperor, it seems, his reign was plagued by personal controversies, the most notable of which was his obsession with a man named Antinous. Hadrian did great things for the Roman Empire and was loved by many, but he had a complex personality and broad interests that raised the eyebrow of more than a few of his subjects. On the surface, Hadrian was happily married to his wife, Vibia Sabina, a Roman empress. She was faithfully by his side until his death and was even featured on coins under her husband's reign. However, they had no children and ended up adopting. Rumors swirled around the empire that Hadrian was more attracted to men, and that his marriage to Sabina was more for show than anything else. It's well known that he took a particular interest in Antinous, the young man from Bithynia. Whatever their relationship entailed stayed behind closed doors, but that didn't stop people from talking. In 130 AD, Antinous died under mysterious circumstances, and Hadrian's grief was so profound that he founded a city in honor of his fallen companion. The city was named Antinopolis and was built along the banks of the Nile River where the young man supposedly drowned. When Emperor Hadrian died years later, the Roman Empire undoubtedly mourned for him. He was a highly respected and influential ruler who had reigned for nearly 21 years. His death would have been a significant loss. It's unclear exactly how he died. Some accounts say that he died of heart disease, while others just state that he fell ill. Whatever the case, he was cremated and laid to rest in the mausoleum of his own design in 138 AD, 1 year before the building was officially completed. Stored alongside him were the ashes of his wife, Sabina, and his adopted son, Lucius Aelius. Additionally, the tomb housed the remains of the next 4 of his imperial successors. When the Aurelian walls were built between 270 and 275 to safeguard Rome, the mausoleum was fortified. It was then incorporated into this defensive perimeter at a time when the city was under threat of invasion. But the walls did little to save Rome from the Visigoths, who sacked the city in 410 AD. Nearly 200 years later, in 590, an epidemic gripped the city. So Pope Gregory the Great led a procession through the streets to pray for the plague to end. It's said that as the Pope and his followers crossed the bridge in front of Hadrian's mausoleum, something miraculous happened. At the very top, an archangel appeared to the people and was seen sheathing his sword. This sight was taken as a sign that the epidemic would soon be over, and from then on out, the mausoleum was called Castel Santangelo, or Holy Angel Castle. In 1277, Pope Nicholas III commissioned a secret walkway to connect Vatican City directly to the Castel Santangelo so the popes could escape during an attack or an uprising. The castle was used as a fortress and hiding place for several popes during periods of unrest and sieges. Later on, a torture chamber was added when the place served as a prison. And in the 19th century, the castle was converted to military barracks. Fun fact, the building was once decorated with gilded bronze peacocks, 2 of which can now be seen in the Vatican museums. Castel Santangelo itself now also serves as a museum where you can get your fill of ancient Roman history. Windsor Castle. Would you like to visit a haunted castle? If you answered yes, then Windsor Castle may be the place for you. Spooky apparitions have been seen lurking the halls of this 11th century palace. From the ghosts of King Henry VIII and Queen Elizabeth I to the tortured spirits of past staff members, Windsor Castle has a long and violent history, making it one of the most visited paranormal hotspots in the UK. The site of the castle was first developed around 1070 AD by King William I, aka William the Conqueror, but he only constructed a simple mound with a stockade. Subsequent rulers made additions to the site, and eventually the palace, as it is now, began to take shape. Serving as an English residence for most of its life, Windsor Castle stands on a ridge in Berkshire County, England. It's made up of 2 sprawling building complexes and occupies 13 acres of land near the south bank of the Thames River. Each complex, or court as they say in England, is complete with royal apartments and multiple chapels, all of which are said to be hangout spots for the dead. Some of the most famous ghost sightings are of spirits from British royalty. One of the most commonly seen ghosts is King Henry VIII. Maybe he feels guilty for killing all of those wives. This moody Tudor king made big changes to Windsor Castle in the 1500s. His ghost has been seen pacing the stone corridors, floating toward the chapel, and climbing the stairs in the middle of the night. Queen Elizabeth I, who cherished Windsor and spent many happy years there, has been spotted in the royal library. Guards say they have seen her ghost browsing the bookshelves or sitting in chairs reading. They have also heard the distinct sound of her high heels echoing through the library. However, it's not just royals who are said to haunt Windsor Castle. Former staff members and workers are also believed to linger. In the Dean's Cloister, a corridor connecting the royal chapel to the royal apartments, the tragic spirit of a young choir boy has often been seen. The boy was tragically crushed during the castle's reconstruction in the 12th century. Guards have heard his faint cries in the darkness, and in the lower levels of the castle, ghosts of servants going about their duties have also been spotted. Many other parts of Windsor Castle are also said to be haunted. Guards have noticed strange shapes, whispers, and cold spots in rooms like the Waterloo Room. The Horseshoe Cloister archway has unexplained gusts of wind, And in St. George's Chapel, shadowy figures have been seen moving across the pews when no one is there. The castle's long history seems to have left traces of the past all over these ancient grounds. Sightings and encounters involving unexplained phenomena continue to this day. The Monastery of St. Catherine. For centuries, pilgrims have journeyed to the foot of Mount Sinai to seek solace and inspiration. One of the most enduring symbols of this sacred site is the Monastery of St. Catherine, a sanctuary steeped in history and legend. The Monastery of St. Catherine is a holy site, allegedly built on the mountain of God, Mount Sinai, the same location as a crucial tale from the Bible. It's also one of the most ancient and continuously occupied monasteries in the world, dating back to the first half of the 4th century AD. And it's all thanks to Moses. Remember the story of the burning bush from the book of Exodus? The shepherd Moses was watching his flock on Mount Sinai when he came across a burning bush. God was speaking to him through the bush and told him about the suffering of his people in Egypt and commanded him to lead them to freedom. At first, Moses is hesitant. He doesn't believe that he can do what's being asked of him. But God assures Moses that his spirit will be with him, and that if the Pharaoh refuses, he will strike Egypt down with plagues. You most likely know what happens next. Moses appears before the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh turns him away. Even after several warnings of God's wrath, the Pharaoh still refuses. And that's when the plagues begin. The water of the Nile turns to blood. Frogs invade the land by the thousands. Locusts eat the crops, followed by illness, destruction, and death. All due to the Pharaoh's stubbornness. This is one of the most well-known stories from the Bible, which explains why Mount Sinai was chosen as the location of St. Catherine's Monastery. Not only did Moses encounter the burning bush on the mountain, he also received the 10 Commandments on the mountain after the Israelites finally gained their freedom. So Mount Sinai is a pretty big deal, religiously speaking. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why is the monastery dedicated to St. Catherine when these stories have nothing to do with her? Well, the most popular explanation involves a story that's been passed down from generation to generation. It claims that a female Sinai monk named St. Catherine was shown a vision. In this vision, she witnessed 5 centuries following her death. She was shown that her body would be spared from decay and that it would become radiant with light. Then, her body would be carried by a group of angels to one of Mount Sinai's peaks. This peak was later named Mount St. Catherine's. The legend continues years later when a group of monks ascended the mountain and discovered St. Catherine's body. Just as the vision claimed, it was completely intact. It didn't smell of rot or decay, it smelled sweet, like myrrh. The monks even started to bottle up this aroma, as it apparently had supernatural healing properties. I can see the fragrance now, selling like hotcakes. Dead but blessed by St. Catherine. But give me some of your ideas in the comments. The monks allegedly brought the hand and the head of the saint to the monastery for safekeeping, where they were worshipped as holy relics. Other sources, however, claim that the entire body was stored within the monastery. Whatever the case may be, from then on out, it was known as St. Catherine's Monastery. Today, the monastery is prominently featured on tourist maps. It's said to house thousands of manuscripts within its library, written in Greek, Arabic, Coptic, Ethiopian, Syriac, and Armenian. Amazingly, new discoveries are constantly being made here by scholars concerning never-before-seen documents written in languages that haven't been used since the Dark Ages. Hyuji Temple. Hyuji Temple is home to the oldest wooden building in the world, dating back to the Asuka period between 538 and 710 AD. Prince Shotoku, a pivotal figure in Japanese history, was renowned for his efforts to modernize the government and for his political reforms. He was responsible for Japan's first constitution and began construction on the temple in 607. Prince Shotoku was Emperor Yomei's son, who only reigned for 2 years until his death in 587. Shotoku himself was hailed as the father of Japanese Buddhism. Sure, he's credited with building Hyuji Temple as well as other important temples, but he's better known for spreading Buddhist teachings and cultures throughout early Japan. In fact, the influence and legacy he left behind were so monumental that in the 12th century, a popular cult dedicated to him was established. The main belief of the cult was that Shotoku was really an incarnation of Buddha. Getting back to Hyuji Temple, it's divided into two main areas, the western and eastern precincts. The main hall, or kondo, the world's oldest wooden building, can be found in the western precinct. The 5-storied pagoda, a lecture hall, and the central gate are also featured in this section of the complex. The 5-storied pagoda is particularly noteworthy. It's said that a mystery lies at the top of this building. According to legend, 4 scythes are attached to the pagoda's roof. This part is true, but what nobody knows is how or why these scythes were placed there. Some think that they were added in order to keep the vengeful spirits of the Shotoku family within. But others believe that after the pagoda caught fire in 670, the scythes were added to the roof to serve as lightning rods. This explanation isn't as fun, but it makes more logical sense. In the eastern precinct, there is a building dedicated to Prince Shotoku called the Hall of Dreams. It was constructed on the former site of his palace to help keep his spirit at ease. Between the two precincts is the Gallery of Temple Treasures, which houses an impressive collection of Buddhist artifacts and artwork. Among the treasures of the temple is the Shaka Triad, a bronze statue depicting the Buddha with 2 bodhisattvas, or enlightened beings, on either side of him. This is said to be one of the oldest Buddhist sculptures in the world, dating to 623 AD. The Coliseum. If Rome brought gladiator fights back to the Coliseum, would you buy a ticket? The Coliseum is more than just a massive ancient structure. It's a building steeped in legends and mysteries that would make even the most seasoned ghost hunter raise an eyebrow. It's also one of the oldest buildings in the world that has stood the test of time. Has anyone ever told you that the Coliseum might be one of the 7 doors to hell? Well, according to medieval lore, this iconic arena wasn't just for gladiators. It was also believed to be a portal straight to the underworld. And the connection to the dark side didn't stop there. Legend has it that a sinister figure dressed as Charon, the ferryman of souls, would appear after each gladiator fight. Apparently, he'd show up to check if the victims were truly dead before dragging them through the Colosseum's infamous Libitina's door. This door was named after Libitina, the goddess of funerals. But let's go back a bit to understand how this eerie reputation came to be. The Colosseum, or the Flavian Amphitheater as it was originally known, was commissioned by Emperor Vespasian in 72 AD. It was then inaugurated by his son Titus. It was a gift to the people of Rome, a grand stage for gladiator battles, wild animal hunts, and even reenactments of naval battles. One of the most dramatic events held in the Colosseum was the Naumachia, a staged naval battle. To create these battles, the arena was flooded, and special flat-bottomed ships were used to accommodate the shallow water. The first recorded Naumachia in the Colosseum took place in 80 AD during the inauguration festivities for Emperor Titus. Fast forward to the Middle Ages, and this once glorious arena had fallen into ruin, becoming a convenient quarry for building materials. But the Colosseum's imposing structure and proximity to a giant statue of Emperor Nero led to its new name, Colosseum, allegedly derived from the word colossal. As Christianity spread, the Colosseum's dark side only grew darker. Christians viewed the arena as a symbol of greed and paganism, and stories began to swirl about its cursed nature. Some even claimed that witches and sorcerers would gather within its walls, brewing potions with herbs that mysteriously only grew on the grounds of the Colosseum. The infamous poet Virgil, who was rumored to be a necromancer in medieval folklore, was said to have performed magic ceremonies within the Colosseum's walls. If you think those legends are wild, wait until you hear this. There is a theory that the name Colosseum might have actually come from a bizarre medieval ritual. According to legend, members of a demonic cult would gather in a secret temple inside the Colosseum. They would then ask initiates, "Colosseum, or do you adore him?" Him referring to Beelzebub, the prince of all demons, hence the name Colosseum. And if that's not enough to make your hair stand on end, there's also a prophecy attributed to Bede the Venerable, a medieval monk. He wrote that if the Colosseum ever collapsed, so would Rome, and eventually the entire world. While this was likely a metaphorical warning, It only added to the building's already mysterious reputation. These days, the Coliseum is a hugely popular tourist destination, attracting over 7 million people every year. Of course, there aren't games, but there are still concerts and events. How many of these visitors do you think know the legends behind this incredible structure? Before this video, did you know? The Great Stupa. The Great Stupa at Sanchi is like the grandparent of ancient structures, a timeless relic that has been standing tall since the 3rd century BC. It's one of the oldest buildings I'll tell you about today and holds more stories than your favorite history teacher. Before diving into the nitty-gritty, let's talk legends, the most famous of which involves Emperor Ashoka, the Emperor of Magadha, an ancient Indian empire. Ashoka was once a ruthless conqueror. However, he underwent a profound transformation after the devastating Kalinga War, which left him deeply haunted by the horrors of violence. Seeking redemption, he embraced Buddhism and vowed to spread its teachings of peace and compassion across his empire. This newfound devotion led him to Sanchi, a serene hilltop that he chose as the site for the Great Stupa. This monumental structure was built to house the relics of the Buddha and became a symbol of Ashoka's commitment to Buddhism and non-violence. The construction of the Great Stupa marked the beginning of Sanchi's transformation into a major center of Buddhist learning and pilgrimage. But Ashoka didn't stop at just building the stupa. He commissioned several other structures in the area, including monasteries, smaller stupas, turning Sanchi into a bustling hub of spiritual activity. The Great Stupa itself became a beacon of Buddhist faith, with its massive dome representing the cosmic mountain, or the center of the universe. Its gateways were also intricately carved with scenes from Buddha's life and teachings. Over the centuries, Sanchi grew in significance, attracting monks, pilgrims, and scholars from far and wide. But throughout it all, the legend of Ashoka's transformation and his role in building the Great Stupa remained central to the site's history. It's said that the peaceful aura of Sanchi is so strong that it even influenced Ashoka's decision to devote his life to Buddhism. And it's that same aura that continues to draw in visitors, seeking a sense of inner calm and connection to the past.
Thanks for watching! Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed.
250-pound bomb. Construction workers in the Dak Rong district of central Vietnam's Quang Tri province were shocked when they discovered a 250-pound bomb. It was an American-made AN-M57 aerial bomb. From their understanding, war-related hazards had already been cleared from the building zone, which sat next to the Ho Chi Minh Highway. Kind of a dangerous surprise. A worker in 2015 was operating an earth-moving machine when he discovered the bomb roughly 5 feet underground. The unsettling find was evidence of the country's ongoing problem with unexploded weapons resulting from the Vietnam War, according to Project Renew, a non-profit organization focused on reducing human casualties and injuries related to cluster bombs and other leftover munitions in the province. The Ho Chi Minh Highway loosely follows the legendary Ho Chi Minh Trail. U.S. forces heavily bombed this area and the country in general during the Vietnam War, dropping millions of explosives throughout the decade-long conflict. To make matters worse, the military left behind plenty of surplus explosives when it withdrew from the region. An explosive ordnance disposal team from Project Renew came to remove the enormous bomb safely. An estimated 40,000 people have died and roughly 66,000 have been injured in the past 40 years. So far, 252 cluster munitions and other explosive remnants of war have been removed and destroyed. 12,000-year-old Mastadon. In April of last year, construction workers digging a new sewer line on a Seymour, Indiana farm discovered a mysterious collection of large bones. They alerted Tony Nert, one of the property owners, who initially wrote the find off as inconsequential. When they called and told us they found bones, we thought they might be cattle bones, Nert told United Press International. We didn't get the true picture until we saw the size of the bones. Scientists identified the 2 leg bones and parts of a skull and tusk, each measuring several feet long, as likely belonging to a male mastodon who died at around 42 years old. Mastodons were a bit smaller than mammoths, weighing about 4 to 6 tons and measuring between 8 and 10 feet tall, according to the Illinois State Museum. Nert, his wife, and his brother-in-law, who co-owned the farm together, donated the bones to the Indiana State Museum. They believe there could be more bones at the site, but the construction was time-sensitive, so the work continued after the discovery was made. It is pretty amazing, Nert admitted. It makes you wonder what the environment was like here that many years ago. Parts of North America, especially Indiana, are essentially littered with mastodon remains. The giant herbivorous creatures wandered the Midwest during the last ice age, when the region's climate was much cooler than it is now. They went extinct around 10,000 years ago, but scientists are unsure why, speculating that factors such as warming climate and hunting by early humans, along with disease, may have triggered the species' collapse. 14th century cave. Earlier this year, railway construction workers in Surrey, England, discovered a small sandstone cave and drawings while doing repair work on a railroad. This is just one of several discoveries workers have made while working on railroad projects. The cave may have served as a medieval hermitage or shrine and was possibly connected with nearby early 14th century St. Catherine's Chapel. Based on the fact that the cave is built into a hill with the pre-14th century name of Drake Hill, or Hill of the Dragon, its roots may go back even further, with possible origins as a site for cult activity. Only a portion of the cave appears to have survived, leading experts to believe it may have once been much larger, before parts of it were likely destroyed when the railway was cut into the hill during the 1840s. It contains 7 or 8 niches, 2 suspected fireplaces, and Gothic drawings and a Christian cross. Researchers are currently working to definitively determine the cave's period of use through radiocarbon dating, but who used it and how is quite the mystery. World War II graves. In a discovery that was unexpected, to say the least, construction workers building a memorial to victims of communism near the Estonian capital of Tallinn came upon the unmarked graves of an estimated 100 German soldiers who died during World War II. Found in early 2018 near the Baltic coast, the undocumented burials represent what researchers believe is a larger nearby German military cemetery. Workers halted construction while the situation was investigated. The soldiers were buried individually rather than in a mass grave, and they were reinterred at the established cemetery nearby. Between 3,000 and 4,000 German soldiers were buried near Tallinn alone, and there are 12 known German military cemeteries throughout Estonia, containing an estimated 30,000 graves. Germany and Estonia signed an agreement in 1995 allowing Germany to restore and operate war memorials in honor of fallen soldiers throughout Estonia. Message in a bottle. While up on 12 feet of scaffolding and demolishing an 18-inch thick brick wall at Montclair State University in New Jersey in late 2019, a construction worker named Robert Cannaby heard the unexpected sound of glass shattering. Tucked 3 bricks deep into the middle of the wall, where there would normally be a middle layer of brick, was a message in a now shattered beer bottle dated July 3, 1907. Discovered in the university's College Hall building, the 113-year-old message is among history's oldest known messages in a bottle. The yellowed and slightly torn paper contained an elegantly penned yet simple statement which reads, "This is to certify that this wall was built by 2 bricklayers from Newark, New Jersey by the names of William Hanley and James Lennon, members of number 3 of the BMIU of America, and P.W. Lynch was also working on the job." He just happened to hit the right spot, Montclair State's Director of Construction Management, Sharon Mahoney, told NorthJersey.com. The middle brick was gone. The bottle was there. We probably never would have found it. It wasn't quite what I was expecting the note to say. I thought it would have some sort of encoded message or something more mysterious. Cannaby's co-workers helped him retrieve the bottled message, which he then delivered to Mahoney, making sure to apologize for the broken glass. Census records indicate that Hanley and Lennon, the 2 men behind the note, were first-generation Irish-American laborers. It's a wonder their message was found, considering the wall was built to last and was only torn down as part of the university's mission to introduce an open floor plan to the building. Dinosaur eggs. Construction workers in China's Jiangxi province received the surprise of a lifetime on Christmas Day 2017 when they discovered a clutch of 20 to 30 perfectly preserved dinosaur eggs while blasting through rock and soil. Right as the workers were about to dispose of a large boulder, they noticed oval stones and black fragments in the rock. They immediately stopped working and called the Dayu County Museum. Cultural Relics Protection staff confirmed that the workers had indeed discovered dinosaur eggs. The eggs are approximately 130 million years old and were laid during the Mesozoic Cretaceous period, when Dayu County was largely a lake and marsh. offering a suitable habitat and breeding ground for dinosaurs and other reptiles. As fascinating as the discovery was, it's sort of common for people to discover dinosaur eggs in China, and particularly in Dayu County, which is part of the prefectural-level city of Gansu, dubbed China's hometown of dinosaurs. Pretty cool, right? An actual pot of gold. In the central Netherlands village of Hof en Haag in 2018, employees from the Oasen utility company discovered a literal pot of gold and silver while preparing to lay water lines. The employee's supervisor notified Landscape Heritage Utrecht, an archaeology company that documents local discoveries. They dated the find to the 15th century, when a French noble family called the Dukes of Burgundy ruled the Netherlands. Perhaps you've heard of them. Altogether, the earthenware cooking pot contained 474 coins, 12 of which were actual gold, while 462 were silver. Also in the vessel were textile remains, suggesting that the coins were once wrapped in cloth. The coins bear the likenesses of King Henry VI of England, Pope Paul II, and David of Burgundy, the former Bishop of Utrecht. They were found near the historic city of Hagestein, which was destroyed in 1405, taking most of its history with it. Archaeologists were delighted by the find and hope that it will shed light on a little understood period of Dutch history. Rare mosaic. While installing communication cables in Jerusalem's Old City in 2017, construction workers stumbled upon an incredibly rare 1,500-year-old mosaic floor bearing a Greek inscription that mentions the Roman emperors Justinian I and Constantine the Great. The 6th century relic's message states, "The most pious Roman Emperor Flavius Justinian and the most God-loving priest and abbot Constantine erected the building in which this mosaic sat during the 14th indiction." Indiction is a way of counting years based on tax preparation, according to ABC News. Based on the inscription, the mosaic likely dates back to 550 or 551 AD. Archaeologists considered it a miracle that the mosaic survived in a location where extensive groundwork has damaged and destroyed many artifacts. They believe that the building that housed the mosaic was used as a hostel for pilgrims. Considered one of the Byzantine era's most important rulers, Justinian embarked on numerous construction projects, including the building of the Nea Church in Jerusalem in 543 AD, marking one of the Eastern Roman Empire's largest Christian churches. During partial excavations at the Nea Church during the 1970s, archaeologists discovered a mosaic bearing a similar inscription to that which was more recently found. Mammoth Skeleton. Construction workers in Mexico City recently uncovered at least 200 mammoth skeletons while making way for the new Santa Lucia airport, offering renewed hope for learning more about the creature's mysterious extinction. Located on the shores of an ancient lake bed, the area contains a plethora of clues about the past, including evidence that humans crafted tools out of mammoth bones prior to their extinction, sometime between 10,000 and 20,000 years ago. The site is so heavily riddled with ancient animal skeletons, observers have been tasked with closely monitoring bulldozer activity to ensure that construction is halted in order to excavate any and all bones that turn up. We have about 200 mammoths, about 25 camels, 5 horses, archaeologist Ruben Manzanilla told The Independent. Just 12 miles away are a series of mammoth pits, which ancient people dug for the express purpose of trapping and killing the giant beasts. The remains at Santa Lucia contain possible evidence of humans butchering the animals as well. Excavations will continue at the site until 2022, when the airport is slated for completion. Nice flooring. Amid the ongoing global coronavirus pandemic, Jersey City, New Jersey Mayor Stephen Fulop decided to move forward with plans to restore City Hall, taking advantage of the building's emptiness and the ability to conduct renovations without distracting anyone. As workers removed a vinyl floor that was installed during the 1960s, expecting to find nothing significant underneath, they uncovered the building's original tile flooring, which dates back 124 years. Sourced from England, the floor revealed an intricate geometric pattern. "We didn't think we would find anything," Fulop told the New York Post, explaining that he originally hoped to work with historians to create a replica of the floor. "We thought it would all be destroyed." Nice, right? I'm sure there are a lot of pretty floors hidden under carpet and linoleum out there. Every dad's dream. At first, the asbestos and grime-covered tile floor seemed beyond saving, but dedicated workers painstakingly cleaned and restored it, and within 3 weeks, it looked like new. Philip's Twitter post featuring before and after photos of the floor went viral, garnering 60,000 likes overnight. The restoration project also revealed parquet floors in Philip's office, which were previously concealed by wall-to-wall carpeting. What did I tell you? Human skull. In March of this year, construction workers found an unpleasant surprise: a human skull and a piece of gravestone while digging in St. Louis, Missouri's Central West End neighborhood. Not really the same as a pot of gold. When informed of where the skull was discovered, historian Amanda Clark told Fox 2 Now that it was likely tied to an 1849 cholera epidemic that saw over 100 people die daily in St. Louis. Altogether, nearly 5,000 people died, and new cemeteries had to be created to accommodate the amount of remains that needed to be buried. At the time, they thought maybe it was in the air, clerics said. Maybe it was on vegetables. Maybe it was coming from God, that if you sin, then you get cholera. And at the same time, the city is growing quickly. The site where the skull was found was formerly the Rock Springs Cemetery, also called the New Catholic Cemetery, Chief Death Examiner Maria Teresa Tersigni-Tarrant of the St. Louis Medical Examiner's Office told the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Rock Springs operated from 1849, the year the outbreak began, until 1869, when it was ordered to close to accommodate the rapidly growing city. The remains were reportedly relocated to another cemetery, but numerous discoveries over the years have shown that bodies were left behind. Following its discovery, the skull, too, was properly reburied elsewhere. New England's oldest human remains. In early 2019, work crews from the Connecticut Department of Transportation encountered evidence of New England's earliest human inhabitants while excavating a new bridge site. Dating back roughly 12,500 years to the Paleo-Indian period, the remains were found about 6 feet underground, along with evidence of human activity, including walls, a hearth, and posts from a temporary home. Altogether, around 15,000 artifacts were unearthed, most of them being early tools. Archaeologists long suspected the presence of ancient human artifacts in the area, but lacked the necessary funds to investigate. The discovery was made during a state-run project to construct a bridge over the Farmington River in Avon. It seems like a good idea for archaeologists and construction companies to team up. The site was named the Dr. Brian D. Jones Paleo-Indian Site in honor of the state archaeologist, who passed away in July that year, and believed for much of his career that the area contained Paleo-Indian artifacts. If not for the building going on there, the site may have never been found, and the discovery speaks to the lucky breaks that underfunded archaeologists sometimes catch thanks to construction workers. Thanks for watching! Which discovery was your favorite? Which one surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you're new here. We'd love to have you! See you next time! Bye!